and welcome back to my channel. I am the Spell Singer, and this is my ongoing review of the Gamebook series Fighting Fantasy. And in this review, I'm going to give you a quick look at this book title with its number, and then have a quick read of the blurb. We'll check out the plot, look at the game mechanics and adventure sheet, talk a bit about the artwork, which I'll run through this video, and then chat about my own likes and dislikes for this book. Talk about any fun facts that I may have, any errors, and we'll finish on a summary and score out of 10. But before I get into that, I just want to say a thank you to 5 random subscribers that have joined on recently. So we've got Stay, KYR, Todd Mad Wizard 72, BJN Wright, Phil Luca, I don't know, Stephen Johnson. Thank you so much and welcome. So this is book 32. This is Slaves of the Abyss, and this came out in 1988, and it was written by Paul Mason and Steve Williams, and a couple of those would go on to write some other books in this series, so we'll get to those eventually, particularly Paul Mason. But as far as I can remember, this is the only joint sort of collaboration that they did for Fighting Fantasy. But Terry Oakes did the cover art here, suitably weird cover by Terry Oakes, which suits the book because that's weird too. But the internal artwork, we've got Bob Harvey back on board doing the illustrations for this book, and again he is on form and does a really great job to give us this kind of warped reality feel that this book deserves, because it is weird. Let's read the blurb. So this is my copy, and it says here, Kallamehr lies defenceless. The army is away, facing an invasion to the north, and now a new threat is at hand, another enemy from the east. Lady Carolina of Kallamehr summons you, a famous adventurer, to her aid. But can you help? Will you manage to preserve this stronghold of good against the invading hordes? Or is this task beyond even your heroic abilities? You will need your wits, as well as your sword of Fangthane's steel, to prevent the sands of time engulfing this city. Okay, so that is the blurb for Slaves of the Abyss. Now, plot-wise, the book is mostly set in and around the city of Kallamehr. And you're one of these famous adventurers, and you're summoned by Lady Carolina to the defense of this city. But no one really seems to know the actual threat, or what the actual threat is. It's all very vague. So you've got to set out to discover more about the nature of this mysterious threat that's approaching the city. And it leaves whole villages deserted. You know, it basically has a tide of destruction, leaving that in its wake. So the threat is very real, and soon it's revealed that this army that's coming towards you, it consists of a swarm of hornet-like creatures that are led by these kind of zombie-type people, or zombified people, and these hornets, they have this sting that it can basically transport. So if you get stung, you get transported to the abyss, which was what that front cover was all about, this kind of jail, this kind of prison, interdimensional prison, if you like, that's in the abyss, and that's where everybody gets enslaved by this extra-dimensional warlord called Bythos. So he's the head honcho, Bythos. But Bythos, he's not acting alone in this. So a conspiracy for power is kind of brewing in Kallamehr, which leaves Lady Carolina dead towards the sort of 2/3 part of this story. And then you've got to expose the traitor before he or she can claim power over the city of Kallamehr. And to achieve complete victory, you've got to pay a heavy price for, how it kind of bears a kind of reward of its own at the end. So it's got a kind of twist at the end as well. But again, we've got that kind of traitor in the story. So since Chasms of Malice, we've always had this kind of traitor in the story. So that's quite a nice little touch. But that is the story. That is the general plot for for this book. So let's have a chat about the connection to the Riddling Reaver. So the Slaves of the Abyss, it's best played after Riddling Reaver. Now, those of you that have read that book, you will know the link. It's kind of tenuous link in there. This campaign is set after that one. Both books are by the same authors, although this one is far tougher than the previous related campaign. The Kallamehr city is now ruled by Lady Carolina, besieged by its enemies, and you're basically one of the heroes that is summoned to aid the city in preparing for its defences. And you can do scouting, or you can sort of deliver the message to half the army to bring them back to the city to protect it, or you can stay behind and defend the walls yourself. So you get these three very clear objectives right at the start. It kind of builds on the plot nicely. So yeah, now there is a lot going on in this adventure, but cleverly the true story is only really revealed to you as you progress through the narrative. So it's not all spelled out for you at the beginning. And we found this with some of the previous books. They're starting to become a little more geared towards the older teens, perhaps, with their slightly more complex storyline. But anyway, that's enough of that. Let's have a look at the game mechanics and that adventure sheet. So for only the third time in the series, in this Puffin series, at this point, does their concept of time come into play. It's a special sheet for time. It's to be found on the inside cover, and it's made of about 20 boxes, as you can see here. And it's just a case of ticking them off as you arrive at an instruction in the story. So yeah, 20 boxes in that image, and like I say, you're instructed to tick these off when you're ordered to by the text. But two of those boxes, if you'll notice, they feature a paragraph reference, indicating that this reference should be turned to. You know, if you tick off the right number of boxes and you land on that, you've got to turn to it immediately and basically do as it says. So the first one is reference 51. It's about roughly 2/3 through the adventure. So let me read that one. So 51, so you know time is ticking by when you get to this point, and it reads, "Suddenly you are taken by surprise by a black hooded shape which leaps up on your back, digging its bony hands into your shoulders as you twist to hurl the shape off. Something glances into your leg and agony shoots through you. You hurl the shape from you and prepare to do battle, and your opponent flings back his hood, and you find yourself staring face to face with a huge hornet, its faceted eyes glittering back at you. It jerks and twitches sickeningly as you close in. And then you do battle with it, and then you just go back to the reference you left off. So it's kind of like a little battle just thrown in there to give you a little wake-up call that time is running out. So there's that one. There's also another one right at the end, which is 326. And that one reads, of course, you've run out of time. So yeah, you've run out of time. While you have been dithering about in the wilderness, Kallamehr has fallen. You have failed in your mission. You flee Alancia in shame. Your name will never be considered among those of its heroes. Your adventure ends here. So, of course, there's your end game. You've run out of time. So I can honestly say I never actually landed on that. I don't think I ever spent that much time dithering about to actually get to that reference. But yeah, it's there if you do ditherer. So yeah, there's that one. The time system kind of keeps you on your toes, but it really matters once you get into the abyss. That's where time gets away from you. Yeah, so showing up early is a good key to getting through this book, and you can bypass certain fights if you do show up early. So if you find that true path and you can save time, then you should. Yeah, so there's also an end ref 182, which should not be, you know, if you don't take that direct path and you do sort of faff around and stay, make all these bad decisions, then you can find yourself being directed to this sort of end of game reference where you've just been, making too many bad choices, and that is reference 182, I think it is. Let me read it to you. It's quite clever actually, because it kind of jumps ahead of time, but you wouldn't be mistaken for thinking that you've gone to the wrong reference because it's kind of disjointed. So if you imagine you're on the wrong path for whatever reason, but you don't necessarily know it. You suddenly get directed here, and it goes like this. "How much for this one?" says the greasy-haired peasant, pointing at a rust-coated sword on a market stall. "What, this?" replies the storeholder, pulling it from a jumble pile. "More than you can afford, matey. That one's not sticking your pigs with. Fangthane steel, this. Pulled it from the ruins of Kallamehr myself. I did a few years back. Last a turn of turns it will, which is more than could be said for its last owner. What a mess there was. Many years have passed since the fall of Kallamehr. You shared the fate which overwhelmed it. Your remains lie unmourned among the rubble and debris." So it's quite a cool little instant death sort of reference, but it kind of shows what's happened since you failed your quest, and obviously the city has fallen, and it's kind of a colourful game over. Quite like that. So there's that. That's quite cool. So like I say, it keeps you on your toes, so that kind of time mechanic keeps you ticking along. But you can also cause instant death in battles by rolling a double 6. And what it says is there's a feature in the adventure due to possessing this sword, the Fangthane steel sword. It's a clever little mechanic, and it involves rolling a double 6. If you get a double 6, it's instant death to your encounter, whoever you're fighting. So that's quite cool. There's also a clever little mechanic which involves various herbs, which play a big part in this game, and you may collect them during your progress through this journey. So at one point, as you collect them, you're asked to check the name of your herbs, and there's 3 of these herbs. There's Pa, Mate, and Teth. And then you compare the letters with the values of this table here, and then that will show you the reference to go to. So you can only do it if you've got the right herbs. So it's quite smart. So you've got that. So lots of sort of interesting game mechanics, and a good variety so far. And then like I say, you're given this new reference and you proceed to that one. There's also a weapon technique that you can learn if you meet an old chum that you meet up with about halfway through this adventure. And he's sort of a friend from past days, and he can teach you this ability called the spitting fly trick, where you throw your sword, and it can make the difference of if you're in a battle and it's going bad, you can and the option is there, you can do this skill, and you really do need it. It's one of those essential things that you've got to have to kind of get past Bifos. The spitting fly trick, and that's on reference 226. So to give you an idea, it goes along with this picture here, actually. The technique that Barolo calls the spitting fly is to be used against an opponent only in direst need. By using it, you disarm yourself, so you must be certain that your blow will be a fatal one. It may not be used in the midst of battle, for you must relax your body completely. You spend the rest of the night practicing, and although you can never hope to match the speed and accuracy of Barolo, you become quite adept at hitting the targets Barolo sets up for you. The next morning you greet the day, bleary-eyed and stiff of limb. So you can learn that as well. So that's pretty smart. And that leads on to the adventure sheet. Now there's not really any change. In fact, this is the good old classic adventure sheet from the Warlock of Firetop Mountain, so it's got your basic stuff on it. It's pretty straightforward, but it doesn't mean it doesn't suit the story. Remember in Creature of Havoc, where it had the skill, stamina, luck, and notes, and that was literally it. And what a great story that was. But this is kind of the same in that respect. It's a bog standard adventure sheet, but it does exactly what you need. There's no techniques or skills to learn in this one. It's just very straightforward, but it isn't a straightforward plot. It's very weird. Okay, let's talk about the artwork for this one. So you've got that time sheet illustration on the inside cover by Leo Hartus, and that's what that looks like. Good old Leo Hartus. He's not doing the map this time. He's given us a big hourglass to help us with our time game mechanic. And the city of Kallamehr and surrounding countryside has kind of a feel that is notably different from that of the previous adventures, and a lot of this is to do with the illustrations. that Bob Harvey has come up with and how they kind of meet with the text given to us. His illustrations have that kind of Arabian Night feel to it, with all the scimitars, the turbans, and all the kind of heavy robes and minarets. And as with all of Bob Harvey's artwork, I really admire that kind of simplistic boldness that he comes across with. Some of the best images are those which they kind of show all the potential threat, like that amassing army that's coming at you. That's a great piece of art. Carolina's Funeral, that's another one. And that classic slime-coated Mima with her little blowpipe. And of course you've got that nauseating imposter who's sucking all the blood out of that dead ox. Yeah, that disturbed me a little bit as a kid, actually. I'm not going to lie to you. But yeah, great artwork. Hard not to sort of think about Way of the Tiger, because of course the illustrator Bob Harvey did all the work for Way of the Tiger, and it kind of harks back to that as you're looking through the artwork on this book. It's brilliantly illustrated, the entire series. I love Bob Harvey's work. I've got a favourite picture, of course, as always. I've got this one here. I'm going to have to read this one to you. So you're looking in the mirror towards the beginning of the adventure, and you get this horrible image come back at you. And this is reference 288, and this is what it says. The mighty walls that seemed so secure when you passed through the city gates somehow look less sturdy from the inside. A frightened city is huddled behind them, and looking out the window you sense the people's fear. You turn and find yourself gazing at your reflection in an ornate mirror opposite. And what have you let yourself in for? You may be a hero, but that doesn't mean you don't get scared. You focus on your image in the mirror, catching a fuzzy reflection of the darkening window. And suddenly you are in darkness, save for a dim reddish glow. There is a scrabbling at the window, but you are unable to tear your eyes from the mirror. A hideously scarred and discoloured figure drags himself through the opening, more twisted fingers and hands claw, and still behind him as he lurches towards you, you scream and jerk your body around to face the horror. Oh my God. I mean, it's like that scene from Ring, isn't it, where the girl comes out of the TV. And this is for kids. So anyway, that was my fave picture. Okay, let's chat about some of my own likes and dislikes for Slaves of the Abyss. So I love the way this book kind of features all atypical creatures, like the pseudo-comic horror tone that it has running through the adventure, and the mysterious kind of setting that's distinct from like that typical fantasy adventure that we are so used to. So in this one, you're presented with this mystery that encourages you to keep reading through the plot, to try and understand what's going on and uncover, what on earth is happening, because it is really weird, this book. Quite unsettling as well. And also the lore and world building steps up here. It's really strong, expanding on the existing concepts that, rather than repeating all the familiar adventures that we kind of have had so far, you get this kind of, different realm almost to sort of explore. The first half of the book is kind of like your typical fantasy world, but then it kind of really begins to sort of delve into that kind of twisted reality as you near the abyss. So I really like that. So the special time tracking system on the inside cover, that works perfectly well. It's kind of like a unique challenge and adds a little bit of like a new element to it. You have to manage your aspect of the gameplay. I'm not too sure about some of the instant deaths. They're a bit random. And also the railroading that goes on this is quite high. So if you detour too far from that chosen path, you're very quickly pushed back into the right way, or it's instant death. So that's a bit rubbish, but yeah. I've got a few fun facts for this one as well. So I'm going to read you a letter that's from Paul Mason. So one of the authors, it was found in an archive record for the fightingfantasy.com site. And this is how it reads. There's a letter, I think, that is similar to this one that can be found on the same site, but this one I thought was a better one. So it says here, we, Paul Mason and Steve Williams, won the cover battle, but had to compromise on the ending. Originally, the book ended with you sacrificing yourself, remaining in the abyss in order to free the prisoners. Steve Jackson complained about this, of course he did, and said that you should jolly well get lots of money and treasure at the end, which perhaps says something about his philosophy of life. So I altered it to provide you with godlike powers. The book is weird. Yeah, you got that right. If I feel, so I feel it myself, and would suggest that it's something about the chemistry of me and Steve Williams. If you look at my later books, I think you will see that they're weird as well, but a bit more of a piece. Slaves was the product of an almighty but very peaceful battle between Steve and my ideas of what a fighting fantasy book could be. And you can also see on the Fangthane prophecy, which we'll get to one day, where my concept of the Isle of Dawn as a very Chinese run into the Steve's peculiar Renaissance courtier sort of vision. So it's almost like they're not afraid anymore to push the boundaries on what they can and can't do with this, with these game books. And they're kind of just, opening up new ideas for future authors as well, that you don't have to sort of remain true to that kind of typical fighting fantasy romp. You can do whatever you want. And that's even more so in the next book that we're going to review. So there's that little snippet. And the book features the Riddling Reaver as well. So from the book of the same name and the short multiplayer adventure, The Dreaming Sands, this would go on to sort of appear in Mage Hunter as well, this Riddling Reaver. So he shows up in this book. He's also featured, is from the same book, is Baron Bluestone. Baron Bluestone of the House of Ragnar was the ruler of Kallamehr. So there's a good little bit of a nod there. This book marks the first occasion where part of your character sheet, the gameplay, is included on the inside cover with that really cool Leo Hartis art. And so that's a nice little touch. Something sort of repeated immediately by the next book, actually, Skylord. So with the cover, they've got, on the Skylord cover, you've got, inside cover, you've got some of the sort of layouts of some of the games you could play, sort of games within the game. So that's quite cool. We'll get into that. So a number of names are taken from the Tales of 1001 Nights, so including Aisha, Albadur, Danizad, I think it's Iketian and Yunnan. I think I got that right. Other names are connected with Gnosticism, so including sort of Aletheia, Bythos, and Enthemesis. Yeah, easy for you to say. But there's also an error that I wanted to sort of touch on as well that I thought was quite funny. So in two illustrations, reference 216 and 298, your sword is shown in those references, but the design is completely different in each illustration. So, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't matter, does it? I just thought it was funny. So let's do a summary and a score out of 10 for Slaves of the Abyss. Now, a few Fighting Fantasy books showed signs that Puffin were keen kind of to attract more adult readers, like I mentioned, moving beyond the kind of basic storytelling. The range was initially aimed at children, which everybody knows. And as a kid in the 80s, my first impression of this bizarre fighting fantasy adventure was not great. I really struggled with it. They got all that court intrigue, the armies, the unclear objectives, so all that uncertainty, the dreamlike dimensions, they were all very vague, and for maybe a 10 or 11-year-old, it was a little bit too weird for me. But today, of course, I view Slaves completely differently, and even enjoy the way that so much of it's left explained. It's a bit like modern movies, you get it all rammed down your throat, don't you? The endings are always super explained and nothing's really left to the imagination anymore. I felt that an invasion, this imminent, is deemed sufficient to get sort of the adventure rolling. So that's quite nice. This is the only sort of mystery of the book that really kind of needed a bit more detail, but it still works. I love all the sort of ambiguities involving Bythos, the villain, the head honcho, the five nobles of Kallamehr. They're all sort of introduced in the background sections with sort of the briefest of detail, all leaving much to be uncovered. So as you go through the book, you kind of want to find out about these people, some sort of mysterious aura surrounding so many of these characters. Now there's Dunyazad and Sieg the Silent. Now, they both have their parts to play in the narrative, these two characters, before the hints of treachery become apparent. But the only time we get to see what Madiheros, I think is how you pronounce that one, and Aisha Abdur are up to, is where the option is given to sort of peek in through their windows. So when you go back to Kallamehr to advise of this approaching army, you get a chance to spy on these 4 people. Well, 2 of them, I was it 3 of 4, I think you can sort of look through their windows and sort of eavesdrop on what they're up to. Now, the detective kind of game would have been a lot more involving if all 4 of these characters had been given sort of equal coverage before the funeral of Lady Kallamehr. So thankfully, this sort of omission, it doesn't really have a major impact on the story as such. It's partly because there's so much going on to be on the side, and the unmasking of the traitor that you don't really notice. With slaves, it's hard to sort of find the winning path to victory. It is necessary to sort of return to Kallamehr halfway through this adventure, something a first-time player is not necessarily going to sort of think about doing. So as a kid reading this book, I simply did not think to turn around and head back to Kallamehr, back to the city, whilst an army is advancing. But playing as an adult, I sort of realised the winning path is quite well hidden, with the reason for the return to Kallamehr. So of course, as a kid, you think, oh, I'm just going to keep progressing on. You get to that third of the way through the book and you get the option. You see the army, you think, oh, should I go back and war them, or should I go off and find the wizard, or should I approach them? It didn't really occur to me to sort of go back. So that's where I went wrong all those years ago. Still, unlike the usual kind of shopping trip of items, there is the bare minimum in this adventure. There's barely anything to pick up, which is kind of strange but intriguing. And the stuff you find is strange and intriguing, a bit like this book. Like the Golden Fist statuette, whose properties and purposes are barely hinted at. And there's that Sieg's Pomander, which is the item you get right from the start, helps you sort of progress without needing any sleep. And the properties of this, they come a bit sort of, you don't really know, is this item good for me or is it bad for me? And there comes a point where you need to decide what to do with this. Is it a blessing or is it a hindrance? Now, Slaves of the Abyss is an epic quest which kind of leaves little to be desired. It really is full on. And, you've got the invasion leaving only like desolate villages in its wake. There's forests that can keep you trapped until you starve to death. And you've got this betrayal and this murder going on as well, with a kind of swashbuckling escapade through the castle of Kallamehr. So it's very rich, very vibrant. The art works beautifully with the prose. So all around, it's a really strong book. But I just think maybe I was too young for it the first time round. But as an adult, coming back to it, it's really good. Strangest of all is this trip into the abyss, though. That's where things, the book's weird. You get to like a point 2/3 in, and then it gets really weird. The sheer scope of the abyss is just mind-boggling. But yeah, that's a very strange part of this book. Truly epic in its scale. If you play this game book right, you don't even really need to have that many battles. Barely any encounters. It's quite, it's short of being perfect, of course, in a few ways. You got that sort of abortive false choices at the start of the book where, they get these 3 options. Do you stay back and defend the castle? You get one chance to not do that, and then after that, and then you're dead. Or you can go and bring the army back, but eventually you'll be going out to scout east anyway to, check out the army. So really that is the only option. So that's kind of weird. It doesn't matter. The various endings could have used a little bit more work, but overall, it's very good. There's really not much wrong with this one. It offers a really refreshing, well-crafted mystery with a kind of larger cosmic horror narrative. But it's challenging, can be often frustrating as well. But the linearity kind of undermines the urgency of this book. But finding that path is no easy feat. It is considered a kind of worthwhile and essential read for its kind of unique atmosphere, concept. Even despite its gameplay flaws, it's a really strong entry. It's just very weird. So I advise you not to trip out on anything when reading this one. Make sure you're of sound mind. So all in all, I would give this book 7 out of 10. It's a very strong entry. If you've not read it in a while, give it another try, because it's a good one. It's very good. Yeah, 7 out of 10 for Slaves of the Abyss. So that's my review. I hope you liked it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Maybe share it with someone who you think might like it. Give us a comment on your thoughts. The next book we're going to do is book 33, which is Skylord. Yeah, we'll do that one next, and we'll see what we can talk about. Skylord. Yeah, we'll leave it for the review. But in the meantime, look after yourselves, and I'll catch you in that review.